Alright guys, there's an issue that's been brought to my attention that we need to discuss. It's something that might need some clarification, and I'm here to shed some light on a very serious matter, and that's the similarities between Joey Elledge and Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton isn't that good at football, and Joey isn't that good at fantasy football, but both of them are pretty much guaranteed to make playoffs. How does this happen? Well, it's because they both have good players on their team. They both just rely on their strong receivers and Giovanni Bernard to do all the real work. They just have to not fuck up. You probably knew that Joey has the fewest points scored against him in our league. But did you know that the Cincinnati Bengals have the fewest points scored against them in the entire NFL? I mean, how do you not win when your defense is that good? Maybe they're lucky. Uh, I mean, or they both just kind of happen to be in the right place at the right time. Oh, and they're both red-haired ginger faggots. Joey sits alone in second place, a game ahead of Will and Adam, who should be ashamed of themselves for putting up such low scores just as the final stretch of the playoffs begins. I do want to give props, though, to Will for picking up Amendola before Edelman got hurt and benching Jordan Matthews in order to play him. It was almost as if Will could see the future. But Will's win streak ends at 4 in a row as he loses to Joey, who had Brian Hoyer in and Ben Roethlisberger on his bench. I'm not saying that was stupid. I mean, Ben wasn't supposed to play. I'm just saying it didn't work out. Luck of the Ivory got the lowest score of the week and was blown out by Captain America. Adrian Peterson also gets a win over Don't Hate the Slayer, who needed about 15 points from Andy Dalton on Monday night. But Andy Dalton didn't deliver. Curtis and Luke are now only half a game behind Will and Adam for that third place spot. But they didn't create any separation between the two teams behind them. Kyle Besa and Mike both won and are still half a game behind Luke and Curtis. Calvin Klein's team just didn't do very well. Timmy's highest score had like 13.5 points. Set up the Colemans, lost Julian Edelman for the rest of the season, the fantasy football season, that is. Can You Digs It beat Ginger Lives Don't Matter after their big trade that involved like 5 guys. But Mike played it smart. He benched Peyton Manning on his record-setting performance for lowest score ever by a quarterback. You see, Mike, not every game has to be high scoring in order to be exciting. I mean, how else could I stand to watch all these stupid, pathetic teams jerk each other off every week? Only 2 teams broke 100 points. Mine, obviously, and Le'Veon on the IR, who desperately needed a win to avoid being eliminated from playoffs, and he fought for it. Jeremy Langford was this week's MVP, and he had me sweating balls. I sent that text as a joke. I thought like I was going to lose, and I didn't expect to catch back up to Nick. You can't really call it a comeback. I mean, yes, I was down by 76 points, but only one of my guys had played. It was D'Angelo Williams, and he hadn't done anything. Going into Monday night, I was behind 9.5 points with DeAndre Hopkins and Marvin Jones. Hopkins got shut out in the first half, but I took the lead when he got that touchdown in the fourth quarter. A.J. Green tied the game back up for Nick. Then Marvin Jones gave me half a point lead when A.J. Green caught a 10-yard pass on fourth down, and if he hadn't fumbled it, Nick would have retaken the lead, and Andy Dalton, would have kept throwing him the ball. But Shiva be praised, that didn't happen. I won by the skin of my teeth, and I got the highest score for the 5th time. So now, I'd like to update you all on the playoff picture. Nick and Kyle have officially been eliminated from playoffs. With 3 weeks left in the season, they are both 3.5 games behind 6th place. But they can still have a big effect on which of you teams make the playoffs, and they still need to win so that they don't end up in the Sacco Bowl. Timmy is close to elimination, but he hasn't been ruled out just yet. He is 2.5 games behind Luke and Curtis, who currently sit in 5th and 6th place. The interesting thing is that they play each other in the final week, so unless there's another tie, one of them has to win, which means that at least one of them is guaranteed to finish ahead of Timmy. So there's only one possible way that I see Timmy making playoffs, and the stars have to line up perfectly. Of the 18 remaining matchups, I think only one of them, Week 13, Joey versus Kyle, won't affect Timmy's playoff chances. If Will and Adam lose the rest of their games, they'll end up 6 and 7. And if Timmy wins the rest of his games, he'll also end up 6 and 7. And based on the remaining schedules, there are a few ways that we could end up with a 4-way tie for 4th place, where everyone has 6 and 7 records. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place wouldn't make the playoffs, right? And that's the team with the lowest point total. So, and there's only one way for Timmy not to be that 4th team, and that's if Eric is. And also, Mike, Luke, and Kyle Besa would all have to end up with 5 wins. So this very unlikely, very specific, outcome is Timmy's one and only chance to take sixth place and grab that last playoff spot. But I think a more realistic goal is to just avoid going to the Sacco. As for the rest of the league, it's still up in the air. Joey hasn't clinched his playoff spot yet, uh, but for him to get knocked out means that Kyle Basa or Mike would have to win the rest of their games. And guys, let me know if you don't like this kind of analysis. You don't want to hear me talk about this stuff, probabilities and shit, but I love it. This is what I think about all day, every day, and it's why I made my computer simulation. Oh my god, my phone won't stop vibrating. Uh, But yeah, I'm gonna do this kind of analysis every week, for all the rest of you teams as the playoff race gets closer and closer. Here's an update on my model, by the way. I might have told you this, but it uses your average points to compute the probability of winning each matchup, so it's more accurate than 50-50. And I can now pick out certain outcomes in future weeks. So like I can say, what are Eric's chances of making the playoffs if he wins the rest of his games? Heading into week 11, Eric has a 6% chance of making the playoffs. But if he wins the next 3 weeks, he has a 63% chance. Uh, so in week 11, it's Kyle versus Kyle, Brian versus Timmy, Eric versus Luke, Adam versus Nick, Joey versus Mike, and Will versus Curtis. Good luck, you guys.